"Miss Smith, you're pregnant." The doctor's words were like a thunderclap, making the sleepy Nora Smith's eyes widen suddenly. What? How could this be? Although she was 19 years old, she had never been intimate with anyone of the opposite sex. However, the doctor handed her the medical report. "You're already in your 4th month of pregnancy. You're not in good health, so you won't be able to surgically induce labor. You can only choose to give birth to the child." Nora returned home in a daze. After Nora's father gave her a stern scolding, he searched the surveillance cameras, only to find that 4 months ago, she was indeed staying at home obediently due to poor health, and hadn't gone out at all. However, outsiders didn't believe it. Everyone secretly mocked her. Her belly is already so big, yet she's still giving excuses and saying that she didn't stray with some man. The Greys are so pitiful. Why do they have to be engaged to such a person? She's fat and ugly from the start, and neither is her family background very good. It was a few lifetimes worth of blessings that she could climb the social ladder by having a connection with the Greys. Now that she's gotten herself pregnant before the wedding, surely the Greys will break off the engagement, right? Amid all the speculations, Anthony Gray paid the Smiths a visit. At that time, Nora's belly was already bulging. At 8 months of pregnancy, her belly was big enough to cover her toes. In the study, Nora's father asked cautiously, "Anthony, are you thinking of breaking off the engagement?" Anthony gave an unexpected answer. "No, my grandfather refuses to." The Greys were a top-class rich and powerful family while they, the Smiths, were just middle class. Even if they took the opportunity to break off the engagement, no one would be able to criticize the Greys for it. By refusing to break off the engagement, what were they after? The more Anthony thought about it, the angrier he became. He cursed irritably. "The sight of her pig-like face already disgusted me from the start, and now she's even pregnant with some guy's child. Why should I be the hero to take over the responsibility?" Nora's father immediately said, "Don't worry, Anthony. I'll send the baby away immediately after she gives birth." Nora, who had kept quiet this whole time, suddenly raised her head. No, in the past few months, she had gone from hesitating to being at a loss, and then to a state of reluctantly accepting reality. She could feel her child's heartbeat more and more clearly as each day passed, and she had already long since developed feelings for it. The child was innocent. They mustn't abandon it. She wanted an annulment. But it was at this exact moment that she suddenly felt waves of pain and convulsions in her abdomen. She was about to go into labor. 5 years later. "Mommy, wake up. The plane is taxiing." The crisp voice made Nora open her eyes, upon which she immediately saw a delicate, adorable, and young face. Cherry Smith's big grape-like eyes blinked, and she rested her chin on her hands. "Mommy, did we come back to the States this time to look for Daddy?" Nora stretched and sat up lazily in her comfortable business class seat. She said lightly, "You don't have a father." Cherry sighed like an adult. "I'm not a 3-year-old anymore. I'm not going to believe your nonsense. I don't have a father? Surely I couldn't have just popped out of a rock, right?" Nora didn't reply, as she tied up her shoulder-length hair. Her fair skin and sharp, pert nose, coupled with her rosy lips and graceful figure, made her a beautiful sight on the plane. Cherry continued to mumble dissatisfiedly, "If it isn't to look for Daddy, then is it to find my elder brother?" Elder brother? A cold glint flashed past Nora's downcast almond-shaped eyes. That year, she had actually given birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. However, Nora's father had disregarded her wishes and forcibly abandoned the 2 children. She had climbed down from the delivery bed and fought with all her strength. In spite of that, she had only managed to save Cherry. After that, she even went into critical condition. Had her aunt not rushed back in time and took her overseas to recuperate, she would probably have ceased to exist in the world. It took 5 years before she finally recovered. Her obesity, which was caused by the mistaken use of hormones during her childhood, was also finally cured. On the surface, her return to the States this time was because the Greys had finally agreed to call off the engagement, so she had come to handle the affairs. However, the most important thing was actually to continue looking for her child. Half an hour later, the plane came to a complete stop. Nora let Cherry sit on the suitcase. Then, she walked while pushing the suitcase forward. As soon as she turned on the phone, she received a call. On the other side of the line was a frivolous but lively voice. "Auntie, you have to be careful," Nora asked casually. "Why?" "Justin Hunt, the head of the #1 family in the States, is currently collecting your personal information from all around the world. He's probably not going to give up this time until he finds you." The voice sounded a little like its owner was gloating. Nora said, "Oh, Auntie, you were overseas previously and weren't in his territory, so you were able to avoid it perfectly. But now that you've returned, you won't be able to escape anymore. As the most prestigious surgeon around, can't you just treat his grandmother's illness? I heard that Justin Hunt is very generous, and is even a man so handsome that it's hard to come by one like him. Maybe the two of you can even develop a romance that'll move one to songs and tears." Nora yawned lazily. The #1 family was a big family with a big business. Interpersonal relationships within it were complicated. Treating the illness of someone from there might even end up involving the struggle for power and inheritance. Why would she involve herself with the open and secret fights of such top-class rich and powerful? She was back in the States to look for her son. She mustn't cause any complications. As she approached the exit, Nora suddenly spotted a familiar figure in the arrival hall in front. She replied perfunctorily, "I'm not blessed enough to enjoy such beauty." After hanging up, she tossed the phone into her pocket and cast her eyes downward coldly. She didn't expect to see an old acquaintance so soon. A man stood at a prominent spot at the exit of the airport. He was wearing a suit and looked quite bright and cheerful. He looked a little more mature than how he had been 5 years ago. He turned out to be her fiancé, Anthony Gray. With a pickup placard in his hand, he stood there impatiently and grumbled, "When exactly is that damned fatty coming out?" Behind him, his butler said, "Mr. Gray, please be patient. The old sir has specially instructed you to refrain from making things too ugly even if you are calling off the engagement." Anthony frowned. He looked a little irritated. Patience? Isn't it more like disgust? She was so fat previously, and she must be even fatter after she gave birth. She probably wants to save the engagement even more strongly now, right? Why am I so unlucky to become entangled with someone like that? His words reached Nora's ears, but she didn't bat even an eyelid. In the past 5 years, she had repeatedly brought up her desire to break off the engagement. However, neither the Smiths nor the Grays had agreed. Who exactly was entangling with whom? She couldn't be bothered to pay attention to that man and intended to leave immediately with Cherry. After grumbling, Anthony turned and his eyes lit up. The beautiful woman, who was the first to walk out of the airport, was gorgeous and unbelievably stunning. It was as if the entire airport had lit up a few notches brighter the moment she appeared. Seeing the woman getting closer and closer, Anthony straightened his back and neatened his luxury suit. Then, he smiled and asked confidently, "Hi beautiful, can I ask your name?" He was the exact picture of a male peacock with its train spread open. Nora paused and looked at him coolly. "Nora Smith?"